Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. We are live, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. This is the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency meeting. This is a special meeting here today of our board, and we have attendance of all our members are present. So thank you for being here.
It's the 8:30 start time that did it.
And moving to 8:30 maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
How chipper everybody is.
I don't know. John Cordy's, I don't know. You've got to leave by 9 though, don't you?
Right, exactly, that's true.
Okay. All right.
Whatever happened to
So,
7:30? We used
It
to have
went
7:30.
by, it went by, and then 8 o'clock. Right.
so we're basically meeting today because our development projects with Spring City Development Group have been moving forward, and some changes are being made. And this is, I think, going to be really short, but I'm going to turn it over to Kara to talk about the pilot agreement and an upcoming public hearing that we will be doing related to that. So Kara, if I can turn it over to you and/or Jeff and you guys.
Go ahead.
So we've requested that Spring City Development update their project application if there were any changes from the time they originally submitted and we originally approved the project back in July of 2022, since so much time had left. So they did that, and so we reviewed some of the changes that they've made to the application, and I'll just go through a couple of the figures. We noted that the assessed values of the properties have changed, so they've updated that in the application. And then you don't have that. That's
Yeah,
not
just so you know,
that-
we're looking at
that's-
the PDA,
yeah.
Right, okay.
not the application.
Okay.
Sorry. The prior square foot renovation was 32,782, and now the square footage is increased to 34,904 square feet. And the renovations went from 5.642880 to $6,775,935. So the total estimated project cost has increased to $9,257,334. And when they originally submitted, that was $7,881,311. So the project did overall increase, but that said, the bank financing has decreased because of the $2 million that's coming from the city, so that modified their overall financing amount. And then let me see, the sales tax has increased by $45,000 estimated based on the project cost changes. And it's possible that the mortgage tax will decrease because of that overall change, but it's not sure if they're borrowing some of the money up front yet or not to be reimbursed by that. The pilot agreement proposal is for the prior pilot schedule was for, as you know, a period of 15 years. In years 1 through 8, the pilot payments were proposed to be they were proposed to be $19,776. And with the new proposal, because of the removal of 49?
Yeah,
49 South.
The payments are proposed to be $18,735 for a period of 8 years, and then the increases would start in year 9 and then increase every year thereafter. And they're about $1,000 less than what the prior proposal was. So overall, they anticipated that they would be making over the 15-year period tax payments in the amount of $716,640, and now the payments would be $701,025.
Right.
So it's overall less pilot payments.
And that's strictly reflective of the fact that the city is maintaining 49 South, so it's not included in the pilot.
And just to be clear, I'm not sure, I want to make sure everyone maybe for anyone who's watching, this is the phase 1 project.
Right.
It's not phase 2. It's 41 and 45 South and 36 Elm. And it's the LDC owns 41 South and 36 Elm. And we'll be talking about the sale of those properties shortly at the LDC meeting. I'm sorry, 41 South.
45 South.
41 and 45.
I'm sorry,
45 and 36.
45 and
41
36.
South, the developer already owns.
Correct.
So it's 45 South and 36 Elm. Yep.
Karen, I'm sorry.
And then I was also gonna say that of the 2 million that the city's providing to this phase 1 project, 1.5 million of it is from the city would be reimbursed through the DRI for that amount. And then 500,000 would be other sources that you've approved. And that's it.
Slight clarification on that. The DRI grant provides directly 1.2 million. The other,
Oh, 1.2.
the other 300,000 is in the negotiated sale price of the buildings. That's what they're looking at. So essentially, we're offering, you can look at it as a net 1.2 and 1.7, but the numbers end up being 1.5 and 2 million.
Oh, they're reporting 1.2, so we need to change that.
1.5.
Well,
It's
it's coming from the city. It's this, whether they're talking about DRI funds specifically.
Yeah, but in their application, they're counting it as 2 million, and you're saying it's 1.7. That needs to be.
Well, if
corrected.
you're talking about the relationship between the city and them, yes, it's 2 million. But then there's a net because the value of the buildings is going to the LDC.
So
Okay, I'm not clear.
why are you making the clarification? I do appreciate it, but she's saying that the grant here is for.
They're saying it's $2 million in grant.
And it is.
Not
Oh.
related to, I'm not talking about the assessed value of the property. I'm talking about part
Straight up
of
grant.
the development costs.
And they're getting $2 million worth of grant money, aren't they?
They're getting $2 million of support from the city, correct?
No, they're saying in their application that it's cash grant money going in for the cost of development.
Yeah, it says 2 million to be reimbursed to the project
Yeah,
upon
they're-
completion of the city's fund.
Which is true.
All right, so there we go. You're just
Okay, what's
saying,
the source of the 2? I thought 1.5 was DRI. It's not. You're saying it's 1.2?
The original agreement was there's 1.2 in the grant. You have to understand that the grant is now a $6.2 million grant. And ESD is saying, we don't really care where it goes, right? It's one grant.
Yep.
So we're using the market center, the construction of the market center, and the renovation of now 3 buildings, right, are all being umbrellaed under this one $6.2 million grant.
Right.
Regardless of the entire total. The city will make the difference, whatever that difference is, right? The estimation is then that that Menaccio or the developer is getting $2 million in subsidy overall from the project. Now, whether we say that's coming from the DRI grant reimbursement specifically, or from the city specifically, as a part of the overall project costs.
I think for the public hearing, we should be specific, and for the, yeah.
and it is $2 million coming from grant funds, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes, right, the end.
Okay.
Right, it is. It's just different grants, Judy, that's why the confusion
Okay.
is there. Different pots of money within the DRI money. That's all Jeff's trying to do is say that it's not all coming from one pot, but they're not mentioning pots of money. They're saying that we're giving them $2 million worth of subsidy. We are giving them $2 million worth of subsidy towards the total cost of the grant.
Right.
Okay. So for the public hearing, we should cite the sources
Yep.
and be prepared for the closing, which would be a month following. So.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do know that you know that there's specific grants that are coming in different ways, but that's not really relevant to this. What they're saying is they're getting $2 million worth of subsidy towards this project, and they are, and it's coming out of grant monies throughout the DRI. Different grants within the DRI are giving them this $2 million subsidy.
Okay.
Okay? And I had a question about the first year, their first several years, they're paying what was it again? I'm sorry, the
pilot?
first, in the
The
first
pilot.
half of the pilot.
$18,735.
So, and what
That gets split between the city and the school.
right? Yeah, it's total tax dollars they're paying. Some of it goes to the school district, some of it goes to the school,
Some to the county.
and some to the county, right? Of that, what percentage is, how did they come up with that number? I'm forgetting, and I just wanted to remember.
I will forward their spreadsheet. It's based on their operating budget.
Gotcha.
So it takes into consideration a variety of figures, their operating and expense budget. So
Okay.
I will forward that.
And now again, for the public, how much tax dollars are we getting for these two parcels right now?
Zero.
Zero, thank you. I wanted to make that clear. It's been zero for both of those properties for at least, 20 years?
22 years.
20 years, so even though they're getting a tax break, and it sounds awful nice that they're getting a tax break, we're getting no tax dollars for these two properties for the last 20 plus years. They're two of the most downtrodden properties in the South Street corridor, and then after year 9,
Yeah.
that goes up significantly until
Right.
it's done. Were we able to get any language in this application that talks about their the value of the property?
That will come when we draft the pilot agreement with them.
Gotcha. This is not the.
This is just,
This is our development agreement.
Yeah.
Sorry, gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you.
It just includes the concept
That's
of a pilot.
Thank you.
I mean, there were assessments done that we did several years ago, I think probably even in 2021, so they're probably out of date at this point.
Sure.
yeah, I mean, the 2024 assessed values have gone up. So overall,
Sure.
the parcels, total assessed value for the parcels now, well, if the 2024 tax roll, when that goes into effect, it'll be $994,700.
Sure.
That'll be the new assessment.
Well,
Yeah, we talked about the
yeah,
paying
just a
special
way
assessments.
to, just a way to
That's for both the properties?
say if
Yeah,
the,
combined.
if there's a during the time that there's a pilot agreement, that the assessed value is the assessed value without contest, and we don't need to talk about, it's not about taxes, it's
That's
not
right.
about anything, it's just that the assessed value is what it is,
Set.
right? It's not to be reviewed or contested because it can only be done by the cost of what's being put into the development of it, right? And that's how we're figuring out the pilot agreement, so that's right? And so
I will say that we just had the city just underwent a reassessment, a sort of an
Rebound.
adjustment, if we want to call it that. These properties had been reassessed, incorrectly reassessed, as it turned out, right? One of the reasons was because many commercial buildings that had residential components had been automatically reassessed upwards because of the residential component. As a result of several other building owners in the city coming and saying, I have a building here that you reassessed that doesn't have any residential in it. The LDC then went and said, we have two buildings that don't have anybody in them, much less any residents in them. And so they were reset back to their previous assessment.
Sure.
There will be a public hearing, and someone from the Spring City or Bonaccio group will be there, and they can talk a little bit more about this. But their financing, and this will be confirmed by them, but I believe it's through Glens National Bank. And also, because of 36 Elm is a historic property, there will be most likely historic tax credits in that deal. And I believe the investor of the historic tax credits will also be the bank.
Yeah, that's listed on their, on the application. They've listed the historic tax credit as $2,489,752 towards their project.
So those are things we're gonna want them to confirm it, again, at the public hearing, but that's what we
Yeah.
And Karen, can we make sure that the city school district's attorney is noticed as to
Of
the
course,
public
yeah.
hearing? And
Yep, that's-
they historically have been left out of the pilot
Oh, you know what? And,
discussion.
it's funny you say that.
It-
The new superintendent's asked me to let her know, so will you
Absolutely.
please?
Yeah, by law, we're required to.
Right,
so
but just
we
the personal
are-
reach out would be nice.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll work on getting all the
Public
documentation
knowledge
out so
to
you
it.
can have it in advance. Sorry, we just kind of finalized things yesterday, so we'll get it all out in advance of the meeting in June.
And so from this development agreement, the expected
That's
date-
gonna be for LDC.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
No, good.
So we were not able to, we didn't have sufficient time to set a public hearing for today. You need to do 10 days notice. And so, and we did not have everything from Spring City yet, some of these confirmations. The rush for this is in part, on our part, because we want them to start construction. Okay? This has been a long time in coming. Once we do this approval of the updated pilot, we would sign these agreements and the sale of the property. And there would be an actual sale, which would be through the LDC. And we're asking them to start construction within 30 days of that date. So that's kind of why we're pushing this, if that's okay with everyone. So there'll be another special meeting. So, any questions?
So, and presumably we can set the public hearing date and then have the approval the same day.
We would have another.
No, we could do it the same day if you choose to, at our June meeting.
So as soon as we can set the public hearing, and we do it maybe for the June meeting, so it wouldn't be a special meeting, but
It'd be-
we
right.
would do it that morning.
Right, combined.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, great.
So if you can ask for a motion to do this.
Yes. So.
To do a special meeting or the June meeting?
Sorry,
Right.
schedule a public hearing.
It's right, thank you. Right.
I move that we agree to establish a public hearing with Spring City Development Group to appear before us to consider an update to the pilot agreement that we approved about approximately 18 months ago.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the motion is approved. The public hearing date will be June 13th. And I believe we'll do it here at this location, if that's okay with.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So that's set. All right, any other business to come before the IDA? There being none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're adjourned. Thank you all.
Great, thank you. Good morning, and let us open up the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation meeting. It's a little after 8:30, and we have a quorum. Let's see, project reports. Consideration of the sale of the 36 Elm and 45 South Street Spring City Development Project. Kara, you're going to lead us with this?
Sure, so this is the document that you have in front of you. This is a complete restatement of the project development agreement that was approved in the past. So it includes the LDC as well as the city, but talks about the sale of the lots. The modifications that were made with respect to the LDC were mostly in connection with the timing of the closing. There was a significant number of changes made with respect to the city and the lease agreement, and let's see, and specific items in section 2 on page 3. These are all new inclusions or expansions of kind of bullet points, if you will, that were already there to specify specific dates and things like that in connection with the actual project itself, with some of the work that the city is currently doing there. So the city's consultants were reviewed this contract as well and made modifications. Also, Jeff, you had a meeting.
Just
you might want to speak
just
to
a
those
little
items.
elaboration. If you look at section 2, particularly 2A and 2B, most of these things had to do with the fact that now that we've begun the project at Market Center and also the streetscaping projects, we were trying to sort of delineate who was going to be responsible for what. Obviously, as you know, we're doing not only the streetscaping, but also some sewer separation work. We need to make sure that, given the condition that this is going to be in when they get there, meaning there's already work going on, what we would be responsible for providing to them and where they would have to take over responsibility, particularly with things like electrical, right? We're doing a lot of work at Market Center to remove power lines, replace transformers, and so we just we decided, this was after talking to the city engineer, we decided it made sense to sort of delineate where those lines of demarcation are between them and us. So got a little bit more specific than we had been, because 2 years later we have a lot more specificity that we can work with. There were a couple of other things about the city wanting access, for instance, to some space in the basement of 36 Elm. So in return for a
For
slight
storage.
increase, right,
Yeah.
for storage, and some of the specifics around that. So these were not, well, I guess we could call them material changes, but they weren't substantial. But they're just modifications that we made as we had more clarification from our end.
And if I can, the other piece that we'd be requesting an approval on today is an extension of the LDC's sale contract with Spring Street to purchase the lots. We didn't redraft that agreement, but this would be the 6th amendment to it. And those changes are now, the only contingencies would be the low-income housing tax credit investor financing and Glens Falls National Bank historic tax credit approval. And then they've proposed these following dates to be included in the contract. June 3rd, they would propose to receive final commitment letters from the bank, including debt financing and historic tax credit partnership. Receive investor responses confirming viability of tax credit partnership. By June 24th, the appraisal would be completed. This is all for phase 1. And then on or before July 15th, they would close on the sale of the 2 lots from the LDC. And they have sent me the additional $20,000 deposit that was previously requested, so I have that too.
Yeah, just a little clarification. There are two, they are going before the planning board, right? They're required to do architectural review on June 4th, so on the next planning board meeting. They don't anticipate, it doesn't look like we should have any problems with that. The only other thing that they're waiting for, Carol was alluding to, is the appraisal. The appraisal is not the appraisal what the value of the properties are now. The appraisal is what the project will be worth once it's completed. Right?
It's the lender appraisal.
Right. And this is the only thing I think that they're sort of still waiting for, as far as the only wrench in the works potentially. They don't anticipate it, but it's now the bank goes back and says, we're going to give you a choice of anonymous appraisers who will come and say, this is what the project will be worth when it's completed, right? They try and be as conservative as possible, but that's just an unknown based on, well, not unknown, but it's a variable. So that's the only thing we have to cross our fingers on, is that it comes up as at least worth the value of that.
We haven't seen a significant depreciation of appraised values in commercial properties, which is surprising given that so many are still vacant after, but I'm not seeing that. I don't think this is a heart-stopping contingency for us. It most likely, the bank wouldn't be playing with us if they didn't think it would appraise.
And the project, phase 1 project includes 18 units for residential with, and so I think the appraisal would show that there's good demand in downtown Glens Falls for housing.
Which is interesting, because that's what when the assessors had come back, any buildings that had residential components into it got a reassessment.
Got kicked up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're in a weird conundrum right now.
Is an appraisal, how can an appraisal differ from a property value from an assessor?
Absolutely.
Significantly?
Right. So an appraiser is sent by a bank to assure the bank that the investment is going to be recoupable, basically. Okay, and our valuation for tax purposes takes into account the standing value of the property, not future value, it takes into consideration the surrounding build out, et cetera, whereas an appraiser is going to take into consideration what it will be. So it could be very significant.
In this project, you have one of the things that they're looking at is how the financing is being structured. You've got 2 million coming from the city, and over 2 million an investor is putting in because of tax credit, regardless of who that investor is. The review is really based, they really want to make sure that whatever debt that bank is putting in to the project through a commercial loan is safe.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be more than safe, personally.
Sure.
Given all the other monies that are going into this project.
Right.
Yeah,
It'd be different if you were borrowing for the entire amount.
Right, 100%,
If I
right,
was
exactly.
borrowing for 90% of the development cost, I might be more concerned. Exactly.
yeah, it's one of the reasons, when I talk to Larry Novick and things, the constant juggling is of these various pieces of the capital, what they call the capital stack. What are the things that are gonna pay for this, right? Certain things have been relatively consistent, like the amount of money that the city is providing indirectly to the project. Things that vary are things like the IDA, which now changes based on the value of the project and the costs that they're incurring. Things like the tax credits, which are not a fixed number, right? There's a par value for tax credits that can vary a little bit. They've gotten more clarification on that recently. But all these things, the bank, is sort of looking at these things as well. Forget just the simplicity of interest rates that change fairly regularly. So the more balls you have in the bin, the more things can pop out.
So it looks like there's a tentative July closing date, right?
Yes.
And then, so that would mean a August
Commencement date.
commencement date. There we go.
Honored before.
There we go, thank you. There you go. All right. And that is with immediate move. I mean, right, they've gotta get into June, the planning board. It's not like,
Right, this is where
there's
we
a
are.
lot to be done to
Yeah.
get there. It's not
Absolutely.
somebody not.
But they have
trying
it
to-
all in the works, at
All in the
least,
wo- yeah,
right?
right, yes.
Okay, we're not waiting
Yeah,
anymore.
Good, good. So that's the good news. Anything else in this that we should be aware of or concerned with? Changes? No?
Now, of course, there's also the removal of 49 South, which we
Right,
alluded to before.
yeah.
And our engineer has verified that these dates are meetable for our part in the utility infrastructure development, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, both of
Okay.
these are done simply as a function of where we are with the Market Square and
We're actually
Market
working-
Center and streetscaping
We're
project.
working on the underbelly of the streetscaping now.
Oh,
and so
I'm
there's
aware.
a lot-
Try to get to Park and Hill for lunch, okay? Hello? Right.
Yeah. And it's funny, I haven't gotten any calls about that yet, so we'll see. But still, so that's great, and that means that, $1.7 million project of streetscaping will be done before this fall too. So and it's all starting right now.
Now.
It's fantastic. I know it's not for.
But it
business
will be
owner,
fantastic.
Yes,
You're right,
It's
right.
been a long time coming.
Future us is going to appreciate
Separating
that.
that storm and sewer water out is extremely important. It's
Very.
another main corridor in the city to do that. The full redo of the streets and the sidewalks and all of that has been something on, if you're on Exchange Street, you've been hoping for this for at least another 20 years. So it's fantastic. It's great progress.
Good.
With that, do we have a motion to accept this project development agreement,
Sale agreement.
sale agreement?
Yeah.
So we
What
have
do we
two,
mean
we have two.
sale
Do you want to do
agreement?
them in one? Do you
No,
wanna
let's do it,
once?
well, it's only one agreement, right?
No, and then we have the extension
Extension.
request.
Well, right, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. So it's in front of me, it's the project development agreement. Is it a sale agreement or is it?
This is the
No,
development
our-
agreement, and I move that we authorize you, Mr. Mayor, to sign the amended and restated project development agreement on behalf of the LDC of Glens Falls.
Do we have a second?
Second motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Next, we have the
Extension
extension
of the sale date,
Of the
sale
sale
agreement.
of the
Sale
sale
contract.
And
contract.
that's for 45 South and 36 South.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
we
Motion
go.
carries. Thank you very much. And I believe that is all the business we have in front of us. We will be again in our meet again in our normal June 13th meeting. Am I right on that day?
Where we will have a public hearing as well as our meeting.
There we go.
So we'll bring coffee, okay?
Talk about Tech Meadows, no?
We want to
That's not on our agenda.
We'll bring it up. There's some developments, but nothing that can't wait.
Great.
We have a prospective buyer. I think
We've
it's
had-
for one person.
Yes, gotcha. We've got some people interested, and we're working with the town of Queensbury to look at some proposed rezoning, language for Tech Meadows. So
For the whole parcel or just all of it?
we're trying.
Okay, yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
certainly willing to talk. We've had some great conversations
Good.
with them in general, and they're happy
Good.
to meet with us. And it's that, that whole let's see what we can do together in cooperation between the town and the city, and it's starting to bear fruit. So that's all we really have so far, but we can give you an update in the June meeting. If there's any questions, though, glad to talk.
Who put up the money for the streetlights that were added to Veterans Road? They kept it, those citizens kept approaching us because the poles were on our property. And the town of Queensbury refused to put their streetlights in because we owned the poles. And back when I was, at one point in time, we were negotiating a lease agreement. But now there are these unusual looking, high-tech looking street poles going along our side of Veterans Road that have been added. They're solar, it appears. And I didn't know, was that something that we participated in?
Not that I know of.
Interesting.
I will talk to the, we
Just
will
like
talk
you
to
know.
town
Right.
and find out.
It's great. Yeah, we don't know, and so we'll.
Well, it's an improvement. I
know
don't mean to,
several landowners over on the other side of the street
Had asked us.
They were constantly asking us, can we
Right.
put lights in because
It was
their
so dark.
mailboxes are all on our side.
Right.
And they said, can you put street lights in? And I said, can you just move your mailboxes to your side? Because they're thinking, well, when I walk over there at night, if I get home late and I get run over, crossing the street.
Yeah, that's
You're
what I
right,
was
it's a
hearing
problem. I'm
also.
just not sure how it's our problem.
Well, somebody solved it.
Yeah, no.
Which is great,
I love them.
I guess. Good.
I'm unaware. How's that?
Okay, just
That's
wondered.
what I'd say about it.
Blissfully unaware.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very